know the way. Don't call it being foolish when you know the game, the game. You better call it by his name. Call it by his name. Call it by his name. You call me out, come in my house. Precious brewing, feeling me doubt. Come in, you got me on my knees. No, you don't. Feeling me down. Think you take this all away. No, you need, no, you. Don't call it crazy, don't call it insane. Don't call it being cautious when you know the way. Don't call it being foolish when you know the game, the game. You better call it by his name. Call it by his name. Call it by its name. Call it by his name. Call it by his name. Oh, 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 oh. It's always a struggle, it's always a strain. Don't fall a victim, you gotta call it by his name. Oh, it paralyzes, make you believe it's lies. Yeah. Don't fall a victim, you gotta call it by its name. Call it by its name. Call it by its name. Don't fall a victim, you gotta call it by its name. Call it by its name. Call it by its name. Yeah. Don't fall a victim, you gotta call it by its name. 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 Call it by it. Call it by its name. Call it by it. Call it by it. Call it by its name. Call it by it. Call it by its name.
Give everybody a couple more minutes to get pile in the room here. We want to welcome you all, and glad you're here today.
We're good to go, Charlie.
We're good to go? Okay.
Yep.
I'm responding to an email real quickly to Karen, who's actually sitting right here. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Charlie Mosbrook. I am the board president of Folk Alliance Region Midwest, or FARM as we call it here in the Midwest. Welcome to our Tuesday Tech Talk series that we are getting back started for the year of 2023. It's something we started with at the beginning of the pandemic, looking for a way to both bring us together and to provide us with resources to be able to do what we had to do to survive during that time period. We found a lot of value in what we were doing, so we're continuing it, although we are expanding beyond the tech side of things, and tech will now just sort of be our generic term for anything that we decide to talk about on these Tuesday sessions. So whoever we bring in to talk to you will technically not be tech people necessarily, but okay, now I'm babbling. Let me move along here. Anyway, we're going to continue this. We found a lot of value in, and we're glad that you're here because that tells us that you found value in it too. Today, our goal is connecting with the regions at FAI. This is something that I have found of great value in my life. my first FAI. I didn't even know the regions really existed. So it really changed the way FAI works for me. So we're glad that you're here, so that all of our leaders in the regional leaders throughout the United States and Canada, I think we have all, although Stephen's pretty close to Canadian, we have mostly citizens of the US here, but we have every region represented. So we've got a good panel here, and please have your questions ready when it's time for that. I'm gonna give up the microphone for a second or a few minutes and allow our panelists to go around and introduce themselves. So we will begin with, let's go with the Southwest, and we have Dallas Allen with SWRFA. If you'd like to.
Good morning, everybody. Or, well, I guess it's afternoon for most of us, but you know, some still like me feel like it's still morning. I'm with the Southwest Regional Folk Alliance. We started in 2000, and I am the conference coordinator and currently the executive director. I see Charlie here. He is a prior board member, and there were several other board members that have responded, and they may show up eventually. Our states are Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Oklahoma, and all of Mexico. And our conference is the end of September this year, I think 20 through 24 in Austin, Texas. We typically get about 300 plus people. Last year was our first live conference in a while, and we had fewer than that, but we had a lot of new people, which was exciting. And so I hope to see everybody at Folk Alliance International. And I know that as today progresses, we'll discuss how we can all gather and meet one another in person.
I figured it out real quickly. I was muted. Let's move a little east to SERFA. So thank you, Dallas. And Christine Stay.
Hey, y'all. I am Christine Stay from SERFA. And our Southeast region starts all the way over in Arkansas, goes around the Gulf. So Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida, up to Georgia, South and North Carolina and Virginia, and then over to Kentucky and Tennessee. It's a really big region and really diverse and fantastic. Our conference this year is the first weekend in May in Black Mountain, North Carolina, which is an awesome place to be in the first weekend in May. And we've got reservations and registrations filling up really quickly. We're well over 100 people, which is pretty good for this time of year because we haven't done a big marketing push yet. So we're all very excited about it and about connecting with you guys at Folk Alliance.
Thank you, Christine. And heading out west, Stephen Bond Garvin.
Hello, I'm Steve Garvin from the Far West Board. I live in Sandpoint, Idaho, near the Canadian border, and our territory is pretty wide encompassing as well. In Canada, it's Alberta, British Columbia, Yukon, and the Northwest Territories. And then we have, California, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, Washington, Wyoming, Alaska, and Hawaii. And we will be going to a live in-person conference again this year. We haven't done one in 3 years now. It'll be in October in Woodland Hills, just outside of LA. We'll return also with a new Best of the West Awards luncheon part of it. And during the pandemic, we've had a lot of transition at Far West. We have a sizable board, but I'd say 2/3 of them are new in the last couple of years. So it's really been a transition time, and we're very excited to have the board members that we do have. And at FAI in a couple of weeks, we'll have Gabby Castro, Deborah Holland, myself, Ariel Silver, and Reese Tanamura, who will be there representing the Far West Board. And we're very excited to be at FAI and participate. both in the regional meeting and also at the exhibit booth or table, whatever you call it, in the trade show, and also interact with everybody. And I think that's the main thing. Oh, I come from a management background. I'm also on the board of the Music Managers US, and served on other arts and music boards, and one of the founders of Americana.
Thanks, Stephen. And representing FAI with us today is a farm board of director, Alexa Dawson.
Bonjour, Jayak. I'm Alexa Dawson. I am newly on the board at Farm and also serve as the outreach coordinator for Folk Alliance International. This is my second year to get to do that. And full disclosure, I only joined the community in 2020. New Orleans was my first conference. And so I feel like people like Charlie and Annie have really held my hand and pushed me into some positions. And I'm really grateful for that, because this is a really great community, and getting to invite presenters. That's basically what I do as the outreach coordinator, is to invite presenters to come to Folk Alliance to bring some balance to that end of the economy. And yeah, I really love doing it. So I'm excited to be going to my third conference this year, and look forward to seeing some of you again and meeting more of you for the first time.
We are glad to have you as part of our community, Alexis. Thanks for joining us. Who's got the train whistles in the background? That's
I wondered.
That's me. I'm in town now.
keep it on. It feels good. I love hearing those trains in the background. Next up, NERFA, we have Ethan.
Hi, I'm Ethan Baird. I'm the executive director of NERFA, serving in that capacity for about 2 years. Sort of mid-pandemic, as we morphed along with Farm into really providing services year-round, and Annie and Charlie were wonderful models to work with on that. And yeah, I've been involved in the organization as an attendee for about 15 years, as part of the program and committee for about 8 years now, and on the board and then executive for the last 5 years.
Thanks, Ethan. And up in my upper left-hand corner, the former conference director at Farm. She is representing Farm today. She is still a valued member of our VC community, and she's also our tech person today. Annie.
Hi, everybody. It's great to see all your faces. This is fun. This is our first tech talk of the year, so we're not going to talk tech at all. I just wanted to say that a few times. But yes, I am happy to represent Farm in so much as I've got some institutional knowledge, having been institutionalized with Farm for the last, I don't know, 15 or so years. And it has been the love of my life. So, and one of the things that I love so much about Farm at FAI, which is what we're going to be talking about, is being able to connect with folks who didn't know Farm existed, because they've been going to this big, huge conference with thousands of people. And that's what I did. I made that mistake. I dropped into the Folk Alliance in Nashville before I even knew there was such a thing, and got freaked out a little bit. And somebody said, you should go to Farm. And yeah, my world changed. So we'll talk more about that, but it's nice to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, let's get into our discussion here. Like I said at the beginning of the panel, today, my first Folk Alliance, I went without any knowledge of regions, and I felt pretty disconnected, honestly. Just trying to figure my way around. I had been to a big high school, so I knew what that was like in it. But let's get into the question that we have for our panelists. I'm going to stop talking. My opinion is unnecessary here. That said, I did embrace being a part of the region, apparently. So why do you think, and this is for all the panelists, we'll go one by one, everybody can answer this. Why do you think it's important to connect with your region while at FAI? And we'll go with the same order that we started with. So we'll start with that one. Dallas.
Well, for all the reasons that many of you have already referenced in your own experience, is the big conference can be pretty overwhelming. And even if you read the program, which quite a few people don't, except for finding out where the next music is or where they're performing, they don't know about all the little details and innuendo kind of things that happen outside of just the music. Taking every opportunity to let people know, like I said earlier, I did some one-on-ones prior to this upcoming conference and told those individuals, yes, there's a booth in the exhibit hall where you can find out about all of the regions, and you can meet people from all of the regions, and you can hang out there if you want to. There's a meeting on Thursday where you can go to any of the regional meetings and actually even get a cup of coffee. And most of us are doing like one night showcase rooms, and you can go to those rooms and specifically meet people who are connected to the region and ask questions and have a tribe before you arrive somewhere. That's just been so much easier through the years, is for people to go to a region, have people, a group of people that they identify with or at least know. And then when they go to the big one, they're a lot more comfortable and they've got a lot more knowledge and information about how to make it work.
Thanks. Christine?
Yeah, so in addition to being the SERFA president, I'm a touring songwriter, and I also present a couple of events throughout the year, small events. So one of the advantages of being part of a region is, so first as a touring performer, no matter where I'm going, I start and end in my region, and I travel through it a lot. So having all those contacts of places to play, of places to stay, is just super important. And it's so much easier to make those contacts in the small environment of your regional conference than it is in the big show. As a presenter, even though I just do a tiny little bit of that, really creating a local community has just been super, super valuable. Just to be able to know people, pick up the phone and go, how do I do this? How do you do this? What are some resources? And it's really easier, again, to do in a small community that gets your regionalism, that gets your, the quirks of your territory, the things that y'all specifically face.
Thank you. Steve?
Yes, I backed into Folk Alliance through going to the national. I've been at every one since Albuquerque except San Diego and Jacksonville. And the first time I went to Albuquerque, I lived in Colorado then, and I hosted a showcase night, and that worked well. But I found after that, for me, it's better to do other events and support other people's showcases. Our region is doing showcases at FAI this year. I think what's really critically important, regional and national, is the interrelationship and networking possibilities. A lot of times I've found at national, people will show up at the regional meeting, or you find them in the halls or at shows, and they don't even, they're at the national, but they don't know about the regional, or they barely have heard of it. And talking them through some of the things you guys have already mentioned about opportunities, our conferences in the fall and SERFA in the spring are really critically important, because we can help people with resources in our region. And then also we have at ours, the Best of the West, which is a great long-running way of awarding lifetime achievement in our region, both for an artist each year and an ambassador, meaning an organization or somebody that's been really influential and helpful over the years. So that's another important part of the regional for us. We also have a storytelling component at Far West, which a lot of people have really responded to regionally. Also Canada, sometimes people don't necessarily realize that each of our regions that are contiguous to Canada includes the Canadian provinces. And so we've tried to work now. We have 2 Canadians on our board at Far West. And so we've tried to reach out and increase the Canadian involvement at a regional basis, and therefore sometimes with us at national too. Showcases I mentioned, we're hosting some of those. I think also there's the just fundamental networking and community building aspect of both the regional and how it does overlap, sometimes in much larger scale, but how it overlaps professionally at the FAI or national level, because most of the artists are working to create or develop further career and inroads and reach and touring. And so it's important to have both those perspectives, which I think is helped by each of the regions participating at FAI as well as in our own regions. So those are the basic things. I did want to mention too that we encourage people to come appropriately to both. Sometimes people will come to ours and then all of a sudden they'll go to FAI too. And certainly a number who I've run into at FAI that had never been to Far West. And I know it's been important to, shall we say, turn them on to that as well.
Thanks. Alexa, I'm going to hop over you and go to Ethan and then Annie and then come back to you, just so that you can round it out from the FAI perspective. So let's go to Ethan.
Sure. I think primarily I just echo really what everyone said, what Dallas and Christine and Stephen have already sort of covered. That being said, I do think, you know, for me, NERFA as a conference itself is one where I love seeing my family, but I am often too busy to actually interact with my family. And if you are looking to get my ear as the executive director or my board members, it is far easier to find us and get that time set aside at Folk Alliance than it would be at our own conferences. So from that perspective, FaceTime is a really wonderful and valuable thing, but it's something that FAI offers that I couldn't, even if I wanted to, I couldn't offer you at our own conference.
Thanks. Annie?
Yeah, I love that. Thanks. You know, again, just echoing what everybody said, I kind of love that Dallas said, you know, talked about finding your tribe, because, you know, we can look at this whole folk music community as our tribe, but that's you know, a lot of people to try and connect with at one time. And Christine alluded to the intimacy of a smaller conference and just having that opportunity to connect more one-on-one with people, like Ethan said, like the leaders of that community, which are often too busy to spend time with you. We are, and Stephen said something about us being ambassadors. So I'm just sort of kind of reinforcing everything everybody said, and that each one of us from our individual regions are ambassadors, right? Those of you in this room today are ambassadors for your region. I would be very curious to know how many in this who are attending here in the Zoom room. And if you're out there watching on the live stream, please, by all means, post. But how many of you have never been to a regional conference, any regional conference, by show of hands? Just use the raise hand thing and it'll just give us a rough idea. I see Scott's raising his hand. Yeah, but I can't see everybody. So I'd be curious to know if there's anybody besides Scott who's never been to a regional Folk Alliance. So, oh, that's fascinating. Either you can't find the raise hand button, which is very possible. You can put it in the chat as well, because I just think it's, you know, as I said, and we've been talking about connecting, and there are at least three opportunities at the conference, at the FAI conference, to connect specifically with your region, being, you know, the breakfast. I know it's early, but get up, find out what's going on with your region, drink some coffee, or don't go back to bed after that, but you'll be happy you did. I think that those meetings are always lively, and you get to meet the folks from your region who are running your conferences, and contribute, you know, like your idea, get involved. And so I guess that would be my last thing I would say. I know that that's not quite what you asked, Charlie. By the time it got to me, I forgot what the question was. So I'm just going to say getting involved is a really, really great way to find your tribe. That's, I'll stop.
I assume after sitting through 4 other panelists, you're sitting on your hands waiting to talk. All kinds of thoughts racing
Sitting
to
on
your
my
head,
feet
so-
because they're cold down here in the basement.
Oh my. Okay, Alexa, you want to let us know how FAI sees the regions and their importance to the conference?
Well, I I don't honestly know what the official stance is, but I imagine it's pretty favorable because they are different beasts going to a regional conference and going to Folk Alliance International. It's just 2 different experiences, and both, you know, I think are very rewarding, just in different ways. And you know, what I can say is Thursday morning is that time. We could go ahead and announce that, you know, that there is that time that's set aside on Thursday morning, or like Annie said, to meet up. And I don't neglect that because it is a great place, especially as you're getting to know people in the community. Just getting in a room with other people that are from your region just feels a little bit like homeroom, and it just feels a little bit like, okay, these are people that can relate to my area in one way or another. And those are also specifically, you know, the artists that you want to network with, and the venues that you want to pitch to. So when you're looking at that list of attendees and sorting, and it gets a little overwhelming, you know, this is where you can actually just go face to face. And to me, it's such an easier way to make those connections than a faceless email or something like that. So yeah, definitely get up for that little bit of time. And I will be going back to bed. That will be what I will be doing probably after that regional meeting. But hopefully Thursday is early enough in the week that it'll just be in preparation.
Yeah, get good sleep on Wednesday night if you're. One of the issues I think with the Thursday meeting sometimes for people, I think it's important to connect early on in the conference, but because it is so early in the conference, I feel like sometimes people miss it. They just weren't aware of it. So if is I forgot who said we were all ambassadors. It might have been Stephen or Annie. But being that we're all ambassadors, spread the word. Let people know that this regional meeting is going to be happening, and to bring big pockets, because you can eat all day what you get at the breakfast. That's from the mind of somebody who went to art school. We had, well, any folk musician probably spent a few years.
What,
stuffing
free
their
food,
pockets.
Charlie? Is that
Free
what you're talking about?
food,
Free
yes.
food. Everything's worth it if it's free coffee.
The
Now,
coffee's
Annie
at 9. Just to let you know, the meeting's not till 9:30, but the coffee's at 9. And so if you want the food, 9 is a really good goal.
Yes, I came at 9:30 last year, and the food was gone. And there was like
Dallas,
coffee, so
just
get there
to-
at 9.
And just to clarify, it is, I guess you would say, coffee and bagels and things like that. Am I right? It used to be a full meal, but that was before the pandemic. I believe is that correct?
I'm guessing, because I think even before the pandemic, I think it wasn't no longer eggs and bacon.
Right.
You know, yeah, more fruit and that, you know,
Pastries.
pastries and things like that. But you know,
Thank
still
you.
better than going to a meeting on an empty stomach.
The fact that we're all guessing means none of us has ever made it there at 9. So
Oh, I have, but like I said, you know, the last time I was there, it was pretty much like what Stephen is saying.
Yep.
In truth, I did not go last year, so.
I thought it was Friday morning too, and I'm sorry. Is it definitely Thursday?
It had
Thursday.
been
Yeah.
It
previously.
used to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and post the schedule at a glance just for anyone who doesn't have it or know where to find it. I'm going to go ahead and post that in the chat.
And that'll include the room number. I have a
It
quick
does
question.
not actually. This is the preliminary. This is not the full schedule. So this is just sort of for scheduling purposes more than.
Well, SWRFA's in Shawnee Mission. I know that. And
Oh,
they're all
okay.
kind of on that same floor. So if you can get there, you can find all the other ones.
If you can find the breakfast, you'll find your region. And we will all have little tags. The regional leadership usually has I think it's a black, no, it's blue, or at least last year it was blue. Let me see. Get up here.
And
So
I
if you,
would also just note that,
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
But that if you going to your own region is a really great idea, and it's a really great way to connect if you want to become more involved, which we hope that you all do. The other thing is, if you want to go into other regional rooms, you can. I mean, it's not like nobody but somebody from SWRFA can come in past the doorway. If you want to tour in the Southwest region, it's okay to stop by other regional meetings and find out if, about going to those other conferences. They're not like, they don't ban everybody else from visiting. So
It's a really important thing to recognize, just piggybacking on your point, Dallas, that the regions we aren't monolithic. There's cross-pollination all over the place. I'd say the 400 some odd people that made NERFA's conference in November, at least 150 of them were people that were outside of our region. So, as an artist, if you are an artist from the Southwest and you are thinking that you wanna start getting into the southeastern side, SERFA may be the place for you if you're looking to get more of an impact into California and the Pacific Northwest. Our buddies at Far West are waiting for you and all around. So connecting with your tribe is important, which you started us out with, Dallin, but also finding new tribes and finding new places to grow, I think is, to me, that as an artist, that was why I went to, because I have the exact opposite experience. I think than everyone here that shared. I was involved in NERFA for 10 years before I ever considered going to FAI. It wasn't the other way around. So by the time I went to FAI, it was great seeing my tribe, and it was a lot of fun to be like, hey guys, but then my goal was seeing new people.
I've been going so long that there wasn't even a SWRFA when I started. It was just national. That was it. We didn't have an opportunity to have a SWRFA until 5 years or something.
Wow.
After I got there. But the other thing I was going to say, at the big one, if you find somebody that you really want to tour with, it doesn't matter where they live, because you can tour with them and they can tour with you. So you can be the headliner in your home territory, and then you can have them headline in their territory, and that way you're broadening your audience by twice.
Thanks, Charlie. That's good advice. Real quickly, Annie asked how many of us had never been to a regional. I have the same question, but how many of us have never been to FAI? If you could just put up your little reaction hand, or is there any of us who's never been to FAI? Scott. So Scott is making his very first Focal Alliance. Will this be your very first Focal Alliance opportunity then?
Oh, you're muted. I think he's talking.
Okay.
Yeah, I recently just heard about FAI and Farm, and so I saw the opportunity to join the Zoom meeting. Just thought I'd check it out.
So we were talking about the regional breakfast that's going to be Thursday morning, and Alexa is getting, I don't know if you have, yeah, Alexa has shared in the chat the information about the regional breakfast. Aside from the regional breakfast, what other opportunities are there for people to connect to their regions while they're at the conference? And I guess we'll start with SWRFA again.
Well, as has already been mentioned, the exhibit hall, that we've been having a shared regional exhibit hall now for quite a few years. It's booth 206. And all of the regions are represented there. We're all making up schedules of having people from each region be there during the course of the when the hall is open, which is 12 to 4 on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And there will be informational flyers there that you can take away, and there's usually someone, if it's not always every region there for every hour of the time, but basically you can get information about all of the regions at that one place and meet people from all the different regions and find out when their showcases are and who's playing the showcases, and even how do you submit to each and every one of them. I mean, if you know that you definitely want to go to a particular one, you can target the person in the booth and get those specific questions answered. So it's a really great way for one-on-one kind of meeting information, and also general for all of the regions. I highly recommend at least stopping by and checking it out. And again, finding out how you could get more involved, even more than just if you want to tour in that region. How do you become one of us?
Yeah, the other thing that I would recommend is take advantage of one-on-ones. I don't know how many regionals do that. I know we did it at the Big Folk Alliance, and we do it at SWRFA, but does everybody offer one-on-one sessions?
Farm does a mentoring session, yes.
Yeah.
And I, for the first time, went to Farm this year and took place in those mentoring sessions, and that was like the most concentrated gold nuggets of any conference that I've been to. So that is a really good point. I think it's too late to sign up for the Folk Alliance one-on-ones. I think that all of those are already filled. I might be wrong about that, so don't quote me, but as I was looking into it the other day, I sort of saw that most times were filled and kind of decided that wasn't going to be for me anyway. But at the regional conference, that is something that is a huge benefit, because you're talking to people who are in your region, who understand, once again, like unique challenges, and can really relate to where you are, in your career as an artist, and help you develop in that direction.
Thanks. Christine?
Yeah, so I wanted to say about the Regents table in the exhibit hall that so many of us have been to the other regions conferences, and we know each other. And so even if every region isn't available, we can all chat a bit and kind of tell you some things about them. For SERFA, as I said, we'll have 4 board members there, and I don't know what their schedules are like, but I do know that they're super willing to talk to you. And if you have anything specific that you want to meet up with about SERFA, email me and I'll put you in touch with them, and you could set up a time, even if it's just grabbing a coffee later than 9 a.m. That I'm sure they'd be happy to do that.
And another thing that I've found is, if you're going to another region or going even to main Folk Alliance, is find a roommate if you're so inclined. Some people like to keep private to themselves and whatever, but I have a duo that I work with called the Randy Boys, and I put them together at Folk Alliance, and then they started playing together, and now they're a duo, and they're playing and touring all over the world together.
Great. Yeah, roommates are helpful. Stephen, you
Yes,
guys are
I
doing
wanted
something a little different.
I wanted to mention, just to remind everybody, the exhibit hall hours are 12 to 4, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I know the way we've split up our coverage, we'll have 3 board members, each doing 2-hour shifts. And one is a young artist, one is a much more experienced artist, and then I'm a manager primarily. So I think we offer those opportunities for conversation and one-on-one conversation as well. And like Christine said, I know that all of us are willing to have coffee or separate meetings, where appropriate or available during the rest of the conference. But we will be there, as I said, not the three of us won't be there together, but we'll each be doing 2-hour shifts during those 3 days. So I thought I should mention that. And then the other thing is programming has come up sometimes either from our region or from national, and we've transferred it back and forth. One of the things is grief and loss, which we're doing at national for the at least 3rd or 4th year in a row or more. And I'm hoping we're going to have it at Far West this year. And I'm hoping that we're also going to have the one-on-ones, because I've loved participating in those nationally and at SERFA and at NERFA. And I think those are great things to do.
Thanks. Ethan?
I raised my hand only because I noticed in the chat we had multiple people asking about the app for FAI, and I just wanted to acknowledge people that were asking that. Although I suspect, Charlie, you can correct me, I don't know that we have someone from FAI really to speak to that specific function here. But perhaps our person from FAI could tell those people where to go to ask that question.
Yeah, I cannot tell you whether the same app will be used. I feel like it's something I have heard, and I just did a search through my emails and I don't actually have that info. So I can't tell you. I know that there were some issues, especially with private showcase listings. I know I, for one, did not have any of my personal private showcases listed because it was a problem with, me having applied for something to volunteer, and then all my information got stuck with that, and then it didn't exist anymore when I decided not to volunteer. So it was like I didn't exist, but I was there. So I know that they worked really hard trying to get all of that together, and I do imagine that it will be an improvement, although I can't tell you whether it is the same program or whether it'll be a new one.
The program is Festival Pro, I believe, that you're using to coordinate it. Whether that's the same one or not, I don't know, because I wasn't there last year, but in case people wanted to know.
Yeah, Festival Pro we've been using a few years now, and yeah, there were some holes in the private showcase thing, which they're addressing. I haven't heard back, but I know that Jennifer had said she was going to address them. Where did Annie go? There you are.
Hi. Yes. So circling back to the conversation, the question about other ways to connect with your region at FAI, and somebody posted, let's see who said, oh, Alexa, thank you for posting what I was thinking about the private showcase rooms, because in addition to the breakfast and the exhibit hall, I think all of the regions are hosting their own private showcase rooms. I could be wrong, but I know Farm is. And I think for me, the crux of that is, if you're supporting the artists and the venues, but the artists from your region, you will get to know them. And again, this is where if I want to go tour SWRFA, I might go visit the SWRFA showcase room and talk to some artists from that area, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we all booked artists from our region to perform in those rooms. I think that was yeah, okay, good. I don't want to misspeak, but just in summary, in whole, the idea of connecting with other artists is much more effective than trying to connect with venues, because the venues are being bombarded all over the place, but your artists are really going to be your best resource for how to tour in a specific region. And again, I just come back to the fact that if you focus on a region, it's a smaller bucket and it's more manageable and it's accessible, and you'll meet some great people from all these regions. But yeah,
And
think small.
one thing
think
I'd like to
local.
say, is, if any of you or your artists have a small turnout, don't get disheartened. There was a little girl that played my showcase one year, and she was so upset that she only had 3 people to show up at her showcase. One of them was Vic Heyman, the other one was Rich Warren, and the other guy was a booking agent who was big time up in the Northwest. And I told her, I said, anybody would trade an entire room full of people to have those 3 people in the room. So it doesn't matter how many you play for, it's who you play for.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, just when they come to my open mics, if the only person in there is your host, play well, because that host has some influence. They can spread the word about you. So, real quickly, and I'll give you the last word here, Alexa, in a second, on that one. The showcase room for all the regions, Wednesday night, Far West will be leading it. It's 8:43. Thursday night is SERFA, Friday night is SWRFA, and Saturday night will be Farm. So if you come to room 843, you can find all the regions. And Stephen, real quickly, do you know what room you're in that Far West is doing the full weekend?
Ethan's got a funny look on his face.
He does.
So NERFA is doing Wednesday.
NERFA is doing Wednesday. Oh,
I-
how did I read that wrong? Oh, no, you know what? It's a different room. NERFA will be in 842 on Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
I
And then-
don't have it right here. I'm going to see if I can quickly get it.
Okay. I might be able to find it very quickly. But those showcase rooms, that 843 and 842, you can find all the regions showcasing. And I think SWRF or Far West will be on another floor. I'm still not seeing it. There's a lot here, a lot of rooms.
One thing to mention, we're doing one electric night and the other acoustics.
Ooh, okay.
Cool. So I would venture to guess again that the people in the room who are here have all probably been to FAI, right? Or at least planning to go, which is why you're here, to sort of understand that connection with the regions and FAI. So
Well, I'm here because Dallas said I should be.
well, we're glad you're here, Charlie. We should probably add you to the spotlight
Yeah.
so people know who this disembodied voice is. I almost said a really bad thing just then, but
Really?
very close. Should be can chime in. Everybody, who's Charlie? Hey, Dallas, who's Charlie? Are you a board member on SWRFA, Charlie?
I was.
Oh,
I've been
once, always.
I've been a music manager for 35 years. I worked at the Kerrville Folk Festival for 26 years. I had the most, I think I have had the most new folk winners who are by a manager. That at least that's what Dallas had told me at one point. I think I have.
I said it, it's
I've had-
true. No.
I've had 35 new folk winners and 63 or 4 finalists.
All right.
That's great.
Thanks, Charlie.
Well done. Let's jump to questions, because I think we're starting to run up against the clock a little bit. And I think y'all might have better questions than I do. So I want to hear from you. So go ahead and stick your little yellow hand up, or whatever color you decide your hand's going to be. And we will call on you. I'm really I'm really curious about Reggie's dog. He looks like when he has looked up for a second, I thought, boy, I want to get a close up there.
I feel like I'm either the raise hand feature. Nobody has any questions.
Nobody?
Nobody's raising their hands to answers. So I don't know if we're just, the chat is really lively. I love it. Thank you to all of you who are running the chat. And thanks, Alexa, for paying attention to that. It's on the wrong screen, but
Ethan has a question.
Ethan, what is your question?
Well, rather, I less a question, more since we're waiting on other people to raise their hand, I figure I would break the seal and start the conversation, at least to go back and talk about networking at the regional showcases. It's a great place to show your support and see other artists and be introduced to other artists. From the perspective of networking, I do liken that experience similarly to trying to pull me aside at the conference. If I'm trying to get people on and off stage, please don't think that's the great time to pull me aside and pitch yourself. That's not ideal. And I just want to be careful, because we were talking about it as what a great opportunity. For some things, yes, for other things, no. So just wanted to keep that as something to ponder.
Well, and in the chat, Joel mentioned about volunteering, and you're not kidding. The way to a board member's heart is by a couple hours of your time, especially at a a thing that's as big as FAI, because there's just so much going on, and every one of us are there, not only in our positions as board members or community members of certain organizations, but also as, independent artists or independent professionals of some kind. So yeah, definitely that's a great idea, is to get involved through volunteering, because then you really are going to meet the people in your region, and they're going to like you a whole lot.
Well, and I'd piggyback on that for sure. In fact, it's not just current board members and people that have been to the region that should be working the exhibit hall. If there's anybody that would like to help out in the exhibit hall, in your regional capacity, come. I mean, that is absolutely a great way to find out more information. And then you become the dispenser of that information. So absolutely, we have all been putting it out to our membership, I believe, or at least we have, that if you're going to be at the conference and you want to volunteer in the booth, just let us know, and we'll sign you up.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, probably the smartest thing I've ever done as a folk musician in general is to volunteer at FAI, because it just got me involved. It was one of those moments when I realized, as I was sitting at the registration desk thinking, oh, I'm going to spend the next 4 hours of my life doing this. All of a sudden I started meeting everybody who came through that door, like everybody. I mean, from very famous people to very influential people to people who are brand new to the conferences and to the whole world that we live in. And it was really an advantageous place for me to be, and it led me into a lot of good opportunities. And I'm going to look up to the hands. Scott has found his hand. Scott.
I found my hand.
You found your hand.
Cute cat, I want to say. I'm surprised mine hasn't made a cameo. So two quick things. One is the relationship between FAI and farm is a question I have. And then I'm guessing it's just a regional version of FAI, but I don't know. And then my other question is, what's the closest to like northern Minnesota, North Dakota? Because that's where I am. I'm northern Minnesota, about an hour from North Dakota.
You are in farm.
Right.
You are in farm, yeah.
And the closest farm events that come up here?
Yeah.
The closest event is in the Chicago area.
Oh, wow.
So I was talking to our new conference director, Ellen, the other day, and the train leaves about 11 o'clock in the morning from Minneapolis, and you can get down there pretty simply.
And are there any possibility of doing a branch up here? There's a lot of people up here who would be interested, I think, who probably would never go to Chicago. Not that I wouldn't, but a lot of people would.
Well, at one point, we have one-off events we've done at SWRFA that have worked really well. We had one in Houston and one in Austin and one in Dallas and some other things. So the thing is, if you can get a group of people to do a one-off, a one-day conference, and have your friends and whatever come to that, and they'll eventually get to the regional and eventually get to the national folk alliance.
It's also worth pointing out that Farm, NERFA, and Far West were running virtual events fairly regularly throughout the year. So even if you couldn't physically be in Chicago, you didn't have to be. And we have members of our community that are in Connecticut, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, who regularly participated in Far West song circles. So you have opportunities to participate. I think realistically speaking, the money that's involved in making these organizations run year round, to expect us to, and this isn't a criticism, it's just a sort of a hard reality. Putting on one giant event is an amazing expansion of effort that only is accomplished through thousands of hours of volunteer work, some hours of paid work, and to try to expand that for most of us is really only possible if you sit there and say, I would love to volunteer a couple hundred hours of my work and put that in. Other than that, I am often the person that speaks from sort of the money and realism perspective. Otherwise, it's really hard to try to look at that kind of expansion.
Our one-day events
But-
have been really popular, and it's really expanded the attendance both at Focal Alliance and at SWRFA, I believe. Don't you, Dallas?
Yeah, on many levels. We did them in every one of our states at one point because it's looking towards how are we serving every state. Now, we used to have all of the states from far west under SWRFA, and then they created several different regions, which was a great thing to do. And so we actually only have the 5 or 6 states. And so it's a little easier to do those individual. And I just had a one-on-one with somebody the other day that has absolutely already volunteered to do one in Colorado. And I was like, yes. And so, to mentor them through it, you can either, try to go to all of them or mentor them, like, since we now have all the access online and stuff, to do events. And it can be just one day or even 2 days. And what I found is that sometimes those communities decided that they wanted to be more integral at home and not even go to the other conferences, and that's fine too. It's just figuring out what are the services that Focal Alliance can provide overall to anyone who's a member, which, again, most of you probably already know this. You don't have to become a member of your region. If you're a member of Focal Alliance, you're already a member of your region. And if you don't want to be affiliated, like if you move and you don't want to lose where you used to live, you can choose what region you are affiliated to always. And so, just looking into what does Focal Alliance in general provide to members is another way to serve yourself, because there are many that aren't necessarily only regionally driven. And so those are other questions that can be asked, and Alexa could be helpful with that, and or just while you're at Focal Alliance, delving into what some of those membership benefits are.
Can I suggest that one of those is that if you're an FAI membership, there's a member directory. And if you're looking for people who live near you, just search in there for your state and reach out to some of those people, and you will start to form community pretty instantly, and maybe even be able to carpool to Chicago.
We have a huge geographic territory and spread. We've done conferences in Oregon, Washington, California. We've done, before the pandemic, some one-day things like you guys were talking about in some of the other states, and Canada certainly, hopefully in the future. But I hope we can do it. But as Ethan said too, there's been a scale pullback in the last 3-4 years, understandably, financially, and commitments to hotels and conferences. But we'd like to see more one-day workshops or sessions, Idaho, Montana, Canada, et cetera. So hopefully we'll be able to go back to that in a year or so at Far West.
And real quickly, directly to Scott's question, FAR moves around every 3 years or so. We go to a new location. I think a couple of the conferences work the same way. Some of them are a little more stationary. With that, reach out to the leadership of your conference and make suggestions and say, hey, I'd love to see you come up north. Our current conference director is based out of the Minneapolis area, so that may be in our future. Michael Kornfeld, I'm sure you have something valuable to share.
Well, I just wanted to share the sentiments that you had shared earlier, Charlie, and others about volunteering at the conference being a great way to meet people. And I can tell you, as someone who's been attending FAI conferences and NERFA conferences for many years, and as someone who's both an FAI and NERFA board member, I spent several hours last year at either the FAI table or the Regions table in the exhibit hall. I'd never spent so much time in the exhibit hall before, And the reason I did and stayed beyond even what I was scheduled for was because I got to talk with so many people, to have real conversations rather than just a 2-second conversation while waiting for a stuck elevator at the hotel. So it's a great way of meeting people there too. People are a little bit more, especially with the numbers at the international conference being a little down because of the pandemic. People who come through the exhibit hall are feel a little less pressed for time, and you can actually have some real conversations. So,
And I've had physical problems as of late, but I'm a virtual guy. Facebook, cell phone, Zoom, whatever you need. And I have a pretty well-rounded database, as Dallas can tell you, to help out whatever anybody needs.
One of the questions I had on here was, how do we identify regional leadership during the conference? If say I missed my meeting and I'm not introduced to some of the regional leadership, how would I identify some of these people wandering around? Stephen?
I'd suggest the exhibit hall booth is a place to ask about that. Or if you see those people wandering around, hopefully we'll have those little ribbons on the registration that say regional board, although it just says regional board, but then your geography would hopefully be obvious. But I think, or asking in the showcase rooms too, for each of the regions, hey, who's in charge of this, or who's on your board, or who's working on the conference, because we always need volunteers at all of our organizations.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Financially, you'll save a few bucks if you volunteer too. So if that's a barrier for you, put a few hours of labor in and you'll be fine. But I get the feeling that I think that all of us are open to, just connecting outside of this here thing. So now those of you who are curious have put faces to names and to regions, and anybody who's watching this after the fact, you'll get a chance to just send us a message if you have any questions. I know Charlie's always open to emails. You can email me too if you
Whether
want.
or not I'm paying attention to them or not is a whole
I'm
nother
still willing to
story.
answer an email. Right, exactly. You can send him all kinds of emails. He may
Willing
make-
to receive.
willing to receive. But
I'm open to that as well, whatever you need.
put your email in that chat, Charlie.
It's really easy. You put the damn Charlie in Facebook and I'm right there. I have 5,000 followers. So you can find me. I'm in the top 3 when you go to Facebook and type in Charlie Stewart. Well, I'm right there.
Cool.
I think I just sent it to Shayna. How do I send to all? Everyone in meeting. There we go.
There you go.
Okay, there it is. And I got to say personally for myself, you see my fancy t-shirt, I've got 4 of those. I pretty much wear them the whole weekend because my role when I'm at FAI is to represent farm. That's my #1 goal. I do a couple showcases here and there, and I do what FAI asks me to do, but for the most part, I am there to represent FAI. So hopefully I'm easy to spot, unless it's freezing outside and I'm wearing a sweater the whole time.
I would echo that and say I'm there very core to represent Far West. I'm also there to represent managers in our profession, and we'll be having 2 manager meetups or receptions. But those are the 2 primary reasons I'm there. And thank you for bringing that up. And I have my Stone Pony t-shirt on today from NERFA last fall.
I wrote in the chat when you shared that earlier, it warms my heart. A lot of fun. It was great having you.
I feel like that was a pitch for farm sweatshirts in the future.
T-shirts?
That's what I heard from your guys. No,
amen, sister.
sweatshirts.
Why aren't we doing that?
Sweaters.
There you
Help
go.
Annie clean out the closet.
That's right. Just what we need. One more piece of clothing. Swag.
Swag.
Well, you want to go around the room one last time for any final thoughts? Or
Well,
Yeah.
anybody have any final
Yeah.
One thing that we did a couple of years ago is we asked some of our artists to submit songs, and we put together a compilation of the people in that region. It was called Breakfast at SWRFA.
Mm.
and we had those songs from those artists in our region. So if you have somebody that's willing to help out with that, it's a good idea.
And nowadays you can create playlists, which I think we were looking for. Hey, real quickly, Bruce is, I think, getting ready to go, but I wanted to mention Bruce Swan has a video available on the Farm Virtual Connections page where Bruce gives a very, very good orientation into getting ready for any conference. He did this prior to the Farm Conference this year. And I really want to encourage, I don't know if we can come up with a link for that quickly, but I do want to encourage people to use that as a resource while they're getting ready for the conference. If you've never been to a conference, or even if you've been to 100 of them, Bruce, definitely, I keep repeating one phrase that you shared, Bruce, which was, everything in the rear view mirror is closer than it looks. And that has just stuck with me all fall, because it's more true. You got something to say? You're muted. You're muted at the moment. Oh, no, you're on. Your mic's not working.
There we go. Oh, nope.
Yeah, no, you're there. We hear you now.
I got to give credit where credit is due. That was Christine's expression. Objects in the calendar are much closer than they appear. So, but it is very, very true that the 3 weeks that we're out is going to pass quickly. But thanks very much for the compliment about the video. I appreciated having the opportunity and to use your forum. So, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to dash. Thank you, for everyone. Good to see you all. See you in Kansas City. Safe travels. Bye for now.
Thanks, Bruce. And I
Bye-bye.
posted the link to Bruce's Tech Talk in the chat.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's take one last run around the room, and we'll start with Dallas. Any final thoughts?
Whoops, I was chatting. Well, again, thank you everyone who joined us today. I hope it's been helpful, and I'll hopefully see all of your faces at Folk Alliance or at a regional conference, and volunteer. Come join us. We have a great time at each and every one of the conferences.
Thanks, Christine.
Yeah, this is less about regions and just more about my feeling about these conferences. I think sometimes people approach me because they want something, they want information, they want to know about our region, they want something, and that's fantastic. But as an attendee or on both sides of that equation, it's really to your advantage to approach people and ask them what, or offer what you can provide as well. And to approach it that way as a really two-way community. Everybody here has something to contribute to everybody else in the community. And if you lead with what you can offer, I promise you, you will have a better conference experience.
Thanks. Stephen?
To me, this is all about whether it's regional or national or our ongoing involvements in music and the arts. It's all about elevation and embracing our community. And that's what FAI represents to me. And I hope to all of us. And I encourage that, because that way it does elevate each of the individuals as well as our organizations.
Thanks. Ethan?
Honestly, I think Christine said it brilliantly and beautifully. So I'll just sort of go in between what both Christine said and what Stephen said. In regards to building a career in music, I think you start locally, and anyone that tries to start on a national level is not doomed for failure, but that's trying to boil an ocean. And some of us have the gas, but most of us don't. So you should start locally, and FAI is a wonderful place to graduate to as you are looking how to get and how to grow from your region into other regions and meet all of the wonderful people on this call. Look at what Dallas has done with SWRFA since the very beginning, is just grow an amazing community. Look at all of the technical things that Charlie and Annie were able to accomplish over the last 2 to 3 years. Look at the sheer enormousness of Far West. Seriously, you have more square miles than I believe there are smaller continents than what you guys encompass, and to maintain the success and the intimacy that SERFA has done. There's just so much that all of these regions have for anyone looking to grow their career, and the different personalities that make up our groupings of people is really just the advantage that you have as an artist, as a presenter, to sort of understand where you can find the right flavor for what you're looking for and what you're looking to do. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Annie.
Sorry, yeah, just, I'm just gonna compound on that, or pile on. Building relationships is what all of this networking opportunity is about. And to Christine's point, somebody said once to me, try to be interested, not interesting, right? Like, be interested in somebody else, look outward and be supportive of others. And, that'll come back in the right way. So
Thanks,
make
Alexa.
friends. Friends are great.
Friends are great. Alexa?
Yeah, just to bring that home on a personal level, don't forget to get some sleep and to drink a lot of water and to eat meals and to walk away. The cool thing about the Weston Crown Center is it's right next to, the shopping, and you can just kind of like take a stroll through the mall, find something to eat, and sort of like take this little brain break from the intensity, because Folk Alliance is so incredibly intense. And like the idea that we're proposing, that you get together with your regions, and the people in them, is to sort of narrow that down a little bit. And there's no wrong way to do Folk Alliance. Like, everyone who's there is somebody who's important and who's taken time out of their life and who sacrificed something to come to this conference. So just, bear in mind that everybody, there are no unimportant folks there, and we're going to make sure we're all taking care of ourselves and each other. That's all I have to say about that.
Amen.
Amen. So I'm going to wrap things up here real quickly. One last piece of advice is the Regents table in the exhibit hall. Those people love it when you bring coffee to them. So please keep that in a major consideration. I was also going to suggest to Steve that you do Far West and Hawaii, and then I thought about that. No, because I would never want to be inside the conference. It's better up in Seattle if it's raining.
Hold it on the beach.
Were you going
Also,
to
you did remind me of something, Charlie. This past year, most of us didn't do a good job with it, but in previous years, even in this changing world of digital versus paper, if we have at least a postcard or something like that about each of the regions to give out at that table, people really value that.
I know ours are being printed at the moment, and hopefully all the conferences will begin their registration right after the conference, so you'll be able to just go home and sign right up.
Yeah, we've had a lot of volunteers
We're
for if we do a conference in Mexico. So just throwing that. Don't know that we will, but we've had a lot of volunteers for that.
I'm in.
I would love to see it.
What do you need? I'll move stuff. I'm in.
Christine, did you have one more thing that you said?
No, I was just saying our registration is open because our conference is in May. So
Okay. Well, let me real quickly, our VC team, Annie Capps, who you've all met, Karen Rigotti, and Craig. I'm blanking. Why am I blanking Craig's name?
Seamson. Because you
Thank
wanted to
you.
say Stevenson, didn't you?
I did. I'm like looking at the name, and all of a sudden my brain is just
Patty.
locked up there. But Craig, Karen, and Annie, part of our VC team, thank you very much for all your Karen Rigotti, Annie Capps, and Craig Seamson. Thanks for your help today. To all of our regional leaders, Dallas Allen, Christine Stay, Steve Garvin, Ethan Barrett, and Alexa Dawson from FAI and from Farm, and Annie Capps. Thank you very much for coming, and Charlie Stewart as well. Thank you, and Michael Kornfeld. We have a lot of leadership amongst us all. So thank you all very much, and thanks for joining us today. Tomorrow evening, we have our folk DJ get together. Sue Kessel will be leading that, and that begins at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. And that's going on tomorrow night. Looking forward to seeing everybody at the conference in a couple of weeks. We'll see you soon.